So as Annalie has said, I'm a collaboration strategist based out of New Zealand, work with end user organisations around making collaboration work, and I'm also vendor neutral and independent. So the things that we talk about this afternoon are coming from a position of independence and neutrality. Hello everyone remote. Okay, so there's three things that I want to talk with you in my highly caffeinated, matchstick awake state. I want to do an if then so what, okay? So the if is, if we want to improve adoption, then we need to have an understanding of collaboration behaviours so that we are able to improve ways of working together. So let's begin with this if we want to improve adoption. What do I mean by that? So in my work I talk about the following three ideas when we're talking about adoption. Number one, that adoption happens in a context. And in this book here, Collaboration Roadmap, I talk about a particular context. But if you think about your organisation, there are current ways of working, there is either a great love for the IT group or there's not, usually not, unfortunately. There's a way that new technologies and capabilities are brought to the organisation, and that whole context sets something up in terms of adoption. So one way, or a way that I encourage organisations to approach this, is with the following roadmap. The R means really understand the technology. What are the opportunities that this technology provides us for new ways of working? The O, outline the vision. Why would we do this? What does this contribute to our organisation? The A is accept that technology plays a small factor in success, not a large one, a small one. D, determine your governance approach. Governance is about bringing particular things to life in a tool through a way of working, or keeping it hidden and not bringing it to life. The M is about engaging with the organisation, working with representative groups to understand their needs, their opportunities, and how work could be done in new and enhanced ways. The second A is about applying intentional energy to adoption, and the P is about pursuing increasing value. So this is a context model, okay? So if we think about the second A, then if you have a problem here, then you might not actually be able to solve it there. You may actually have to go back up to the M, make every effort to engage the business. Because if the needs, the opportunities, the ways that people work together today have not been appropriately scoped and understood, then the way that adoption happens is going to be influenced as a result. It could be that you actually need to go even further up to the first A, accept that technology is a small factor in success. If an IT group has decided to introduce new collaboration technology because the vendor had a special on this month, then you could actually have some fairly major problems when you come to an adoption level. Or if the IT group says, well, we've installed it and it's working, collaboration is a technology that we buy, right? Then that's going to have a fairly significant impact in terms of how we deal with adoption. Or you may even need to go up to the O, outline the vision. What are we doing? So adoption happens in a context. The second thing to be aware of in terms of this, if we want to improve adoption, is that adoption is a process, not an event. In this other book here, which they were very kind at your border this morning and let me bring them in without charging me any GST and customs duty. So I was very grateful. I told them I was going to give these away, and that was the only reason I was allowed to, okay? So you can have them. Well, 8 of you can. So in terms of adoption being a process, not an event, I talk about adoption happening across 4 different stages. Winning attention. How do we capture the attention of people in our organisation to work in new and different ways? Cultivating basic concepts is stage 2. Enlivening applicability. What are the opportunities to work in enhanced ways for a particular group or team or department? And then finally making it real. And within each of these stages, there are a variety of strategies. One in stage 1 is called real-to-life scenarios. So in looking at the way that a group works today, rather than talking about features and functions, SharePoint has a wiki, Citrion Social Workplace has an activity stream, IBM Connections has a community. Rather than talking about features and functions, instead talk about the work that a group does and how the new capabilities make a difference to that. So how you have meetings could be enhanced, how you share updates could be revised. In stage 2, one of the strategies we have is classroom training. Group of people getting together for a period of time to learn particular things. Now this is really good where you have dense concentrations of people. Now, hey, I know that I'm from New Zealand and I know that most of you are from Australia, so it's really important, given that we often have each other on between the countries, just to point out that I did say that, and I didn't say concentrations of dense people, okay? So there is no offence meant in this slide, and I just want to clarify with you so that you don't take away the wrong impression here. When we look at designing classroom training, the more hands-on it can be, the more effective it's able to be. A strategy in stage 3 would be facilitated group reimagining, working with a particular group or team to help them imagine a new way of working, coaching, directing, and helping them. And then finally in stage 4, stop doing patterns around saying, we used to work this way as a group, but we're now going to work in a different way. So adoption happens in a context. Adoption is a process, not an event. And the third big idea in terms of adoption is that there are cultural and behavioural aspects that we need to take into consideration when thinking about improving adoption. So collaboration is the action of people working together to produce or create something. You'll note there's no reference to technology in this definition because collaboration is about people. Technology will probably be involved, particularly in the world that we live in now, where we have people spread across offices and cities and continents and countries. Countries and continents kind of go together. In terms of collaboration, what's this? Yes, cultural and behavioural aspects. I talk about there being 3 Ps. So there's some practices that need to be in place in order for collaboration to work. Human practices like interdependence. Human practices like respect for the opinions of other people. Human practices like openness to the ideas of other people. Where you have those practices, you have a foundation for collaboration. There's also a second P about processes, the way that we collaborate today. So it could be the way that we make decisions, or the way that we share updates, or the way that we work on documents. And then the third and final P is about potential. There needs to be a reason or a driver for us to collaborate. If 1 + 1 = 5, then you've got fantastic potential from collaborating. If 1 + 1 = 0.8, then you kind of have to say, is this something that we should do or not? And you are trending in the direction of not. So I've given you a very quick context in terms of adoption. If we want to improve adoption, then we need to understand some things. Secondly, if we want to improve adoption, then we need to understand some collaboration behaviours. So in thinking about what happens when we collaborate, one way of conceptualising this is that the things that we do with our fingers is at the adoption level, all right? So hands on keyboard, putting input into SharePoint, looking at something in an activity stream, writing some notes in a meeting, using a whiteboard, okay? So this is adoption at the fingertips level. When we talk about care, we talk actually at the heart level, so from heart through to fingers. So in terms of what people care about, here are some ideas or some about some things that people care about in their work. One would be making progress on meaningful work, something that's meaningful to the individual. They care about moving ahead with that, making forward momentum, being able to look back at the end of a day and say, I made some progress, I did something, and not being mucked around. People care about making progress on meaningful work. People also care about mastery and expertise and being able to make a contribution and being respected for the work that they do. So being good at what you do, being able to find ways of improving, knowing what your learning edge is, deliberately practicing particular things in order to improve and enhance, all of that is critical to the second idea of what people care about. Some of you may have seen in Business Week last week an article about Foxconn in China, the manufacturing plants that Apple uses to produce the iDevices that we all love. Who loves iDevices? Well, that's not enough. The rest of you need to go down to the Apple store. It's just on George Street. Don't have one in New Zealand. Anyway, at Foxconn, there's been an increase in the number of young males who have come to work there. And these young males do not like meaningless, boring, repetitive work. Whereas the generations that have come before have put up with that because they were sending money home. And also, before we had this huge influx of young males, there were lots more young females at Foxconn, and for some reason, they were more willing to put up with meaningless, mindless, boring things. Now they have some significant problems with the young males that are there. The third thing that people care about is autonomy, having input on decisions, being able to collaborate with other people, and working in a trustful environment. So having a say on what you're working on, having a say in terms of your life, being able to work with people that are competent. So if we think about those care things, what do people care about? Here's the list. Making progress on meaningful work, mastery, expertise, contribution and respect, autonomy, decision, input. What I'd like you to do, just for 15 seconds, is ask yourself this question. If I came to your place on Christmas Day, you probably wouldn't invite me, but if I did, and I said to you, did you have a good year? What would you answer? What's the first thing that comes to mind for you? You don't have to tell anyone. What do you care about when you look back across the year? What do you care about? And if it's money, think of something else. All right, it's probably about 9 seconds, that's enough. You're all clever people from Australia. So in thinking about what you care about, one of the questions that you have coming out of that thought is, what do you need to do to be able to get more of that, or to do more of that, or to give more of that on a go-forward basis? Because if that's really what drives you at a heart and a motivation level, then you should be looking for ways of doing that more. Another behaviour that we should think about and understand when we're wanting to improve adoption is around why people share. Here's some reasons that people would share. One would be, it's a requirement of the job. It's on my job description, I have to share. Another reason for sharing is that it creates new opportunities. As a result of working out loud, as Harold talked about a couple of weeks ago, I'm able to discover other people that are working in similar, related or complementary areas, and they are able to discover me. So new opportunities are able to come to me as a result of sharing. Another reason for sharing would be around building reputation and credibility. I become known for something as a result of what it is that I share. Another reason that people share would be that other people need you to. Most of the people, because I can't say all because I'm from New Zealand, most of the people in this room, okay, all of them, have something to give. You all have trained in an area. You all have competence. You all have expertise, and the world needs what you have to offer. Don't hide it away. Let people see it. Let people experience it. Other people need you to share. And then a final reason that people would share in terms of the limited time that we have today would be out of love and passion. Just sharing is the right thing to do. This is the very core of humanity, is sharing and giving and spreading good ideas around. Now, one way of thinking about this is that what we care about leads through to how we share or why we share. What we care about is shown in why and where we share. So we could put these ideas together like this. If we care about making progress on meaningful work, then we share because it creates new opportunities for us to do more and do more meaningful work. If we care about mastery and expertise and contribution and respect, then we would share because that's a requirement of our job. We've been hired to do that. That's what it means for us to be the person that we are in the organisation that we work for. Or another reason aligned with that is that it builds reputation and credibility. If we care about autonomy and decision input and collaboration and trust, then we would share for some of the other reasons that I've mentioned. Other people need you to share. Or you share out of love and passion because it's the very essence of what humanity is. Now, who likes chocolate? Anyone like chocolate? Okay, now, I had to get a ministerial exemption from my government in order to bring some of this chocolate across to you. So I hope that you can live with that, okay? Not sure if I should do this, but anyway, will. I need a volunteer, please. Anyone like to volunteer in person? You, come here.
I know what these are.
Ah, yes, these are Whittaker bars, peanut slabs. I'm Michael.
Sally.
Yeah. Fantastic. So I need someone else now who does not know that this lady is called Sally. Well, as of a minute ago.
Not me.
Anyone not know that this person's called Sally as of a minute ago? Down the back, I see that hand. Come up. Hi.
Hi,
Nicole?
Yeah.
Great. So I need someone who doesn't know that this is Sally or Nicole as of a minute ago. Anyone else? Can we make this happen?
Hello.
Can we make this happen, Australia? That man down the back. Come here. I'm Michael.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
Hi, Gavin. Nice to meet you. Kevin.
We're at the Kevin.
Excellent. Okay. Hold on to those, okay? Right. So here's the scenario. I said... Man, I knew this wasn't going to work. So here's the scenario. Sally, this is your team. You're the team leader, okay? You have resources that you need to give to your team members in order for them to do their work. The only thing I request of you is that you treat your team members fairly and equitably in distributing resources, okay? So you're a team, you have work to do, go.
Thank you. What are we doing?
Having a great time from the looks of this,
Okay, so you kept none for yourself. Why was that?
because I will go and get some more resources because I'm very resourceful.
Okay. All right, fantastic. You can sit down now and you can keep your chocolate. Right, let's try that again. 3 people who don't know each other. 1 person, 2 people. Okay, one more. 1 man here, come on. Who's going to be the team leader this time? Okay, so in the previous golden example, Sally had 6 resources. You have 7. Same task. Okay, what are you going to do?
You're looking good
I'm going to regret volunteering. Seb, all right. So I will give 3 to you, 3 to you, and I'll keep 1 for project management responsibilities.
Okay. All right, so we have a 1, a 3, and a 3. Okay, you can sit down. Thank you. Enjoy chocolate. So what we care about is then shown in why we share, but equally or also how we collaborate comes about as why we share. So why and how much we share is carried out through the ways that we work together. Now, we talked about some of the things that you care about. So making progress on meaningful work. We talked about, you were listening, what else did I talk about? Mastery, good. That's why you needed chocolate. Autonomy, good. Any other reasons? Because you love it. Anything else? Okay, it's enough. So if we sum up some of those reasons for caring and say that for this individual, what they care about is keeping their job, or more accurately, not losing their job. They have a fear of loss, and they're very focused on what's in it for me. We would say that they've got a retain mindset, okay? So for them, collaboration is all about requirement of the job. I'll do the minimum to get by, but I'm not going to do anything else, okay? Here lies Bob, he did what was required on the job. So if we have a retained mindset, that's going to drive a particular way or approach of sharing. Now, if the way that we summarize for an individual or a group what they care about a different way, so they care about doing more, they have a desire for gain, for improvement, for making the world a better place, what's in it for us, what's in it for all, then you would say things like it creates new opportunities, or it builds reputation and credibility, is more aligned with this improved line. Or at the last end, we want to do lots more, massive action. We want to change the world. What's in it for the world as a result of the sharing that we have to do? Then some of those other reasons that we talked about in terms of why we would share would come in here. I share out of love for other people, and other people need me to share. Now, when we think about the way that we collaborate, then depending on where you fit or the mindset that you bring to your work is going to have a big impact in terms of how you work with other people, the degree to which you collaborate. If you just have the retain mindset, I've learned stuff, why would I share it with anyone else? Then what's going to come out is I'm only doing the minimum to get by. If you have an improved mindset and you have an opportunity to collaborate in a particular area, then you'd say instead something like, I want to do more to benefit everyone involved. If you have an expand mindset, then you would be talking about going above and beyond the call of duty. How much could we do to revolutionize or change this? Now, if we think practically, that was the general idea. If we think practically in terms of how we collaborate today around working on documents together, as one example. So if you have a retain mindset and you're asked to work on a document with someone else, then all you would focus on would be spelling. You spelt that word wrong. Or grammar. I don't like the way you phrased that. And the input would be very, very basic. Okay? But if you had an improved mindset or approach, then the way that you come to the task is going to be very different, focusing on the purpose of the document, the structure of it. What other content could we bring in to make this document excellent and fantastic? It's real input, it's real involvement and engagement. And right up the other end in terms of the expand, how could we make this great? It's not just about writing the proposal to win the customer now, but it's about changing their industry and making them a leader and all of this other fantastic, wonderful ideas. And we do need some people like that, just not too many. Another way that we collaborate today would be around sharing learning and best practice. So if you have a retain mindset, I want to keep what's mine and only give you what I have to give you, then you would come to the idea of sharing learning and best practice or communities for sharing ideas from the perspective of, well, this is going to make me less valuable. As soon as I've told you what I know, you're going to fire me. Why would I do that? If you have an improved mindset, then you're going to come at this from a very different perspective. What could we learn together? How great could we make this happen? Or at the expand level, you're going to have a Steve Jobs kind of person. How can we put a dent in the universe as a result of the ideas that we share and discuss and the way that we collaborate? In terms of Harold's idea around working out loud, I haven't watched his video, so I've made this up for him. Hope it works. It will. If you come at this from a retained perspective, then you'd say something like, I don't want to know what you had for breakfast. I don't care that you had coffee this morning, right? And all of that boring, mindless stuff. If you come at it from an improved perspective, then you'd be thinking, how could we learn? What could we learn about each other for mutual benefit as a result of working out loud? I see what you're working on. I have an opportunity to contribute, to collaborate with you. Or at the expand level, an even greater, what could we discover as a result of this? Now, when we think about these three different levels, depending on where you sit, this is culture in action. And the people in your organisation and where they fit, this is the enactment on a day-to-day, moment-by-moment basis of culture. I'm going to do enough to get by. I'm going to contribute as much as possible. Let's put a dent in the universe. So if you want to move beyond the retain level, then things like trust, things like the ability to see opportunity, things like engagement, things like bringing passion and innovation to your work is all about this middle layer. How do we improve what we're doing? And depending on whether you have less of that back into the retain or much more of it into the engaged area, then that's going to have a significant input in terms of what your culture actually looks like. Now, we talked before, we did the 6, then the 7 in terms of the chocolate bars. So here's the idea. If the team leader had kept 4 for themselves and given 1, then I would have said that person had a retain kind of perspective. And it wasn't just about Sally, right? It was about all of us, okay? So we would just have a retain perspective. If it was an improved perspective, everyone could be treated equally. But if it was an expand perspective, and this was the reason I asked Sally why she gave them all away, I can get more. I can get more. I want my people to be great. I've got enough for what I need at the moment. Let them do the stuff. Now, the trick with the 7 was that you introduce potential inequality. And you've either got a 5-1-1 or a 3-2-2, what you did wasn't even on my chart. That's not fair. Oh, man, you Australians are good. Whew. So, I mean, if you had an improve, then you could have broken one of those bars in half and given 2.5 to each person and just kept 2 for yourself. Or at the very end of it, you could have done what Sally did, keep none for yourself and break it in half and give it away. So it's probably meaningless, but I got to give you chocolate. Okay, so we've talked about that if you want to improve adoption, then you need to understand collaboration behaviours. Let's bring this to a conclusion now by talking quickly about so that we can improve ways of working together. In light of what we've talked about, if you want to improve the way that people collaborate and work together today, here's 4 ideas. Number 1, small changes done repeatedly provide the basis for making long-term change. So if instead of just saying, your document has a spelling mistake in the 3rd paragraph, I instead move into that middle box and say, what's the purpose of this? Let's brainstorm around how to make this better for the client and for us. Let's focus on the content that we could put in here. If you start moving yourself on a repeated basis out of, you got a spelling mistake, through to, let's make this better, then you start to enact a different culture on a day-to-day basis. Secondly, somebody ultimately has to say, enough. The way that we collaborate now is not working. The way that we collaborate now is no longer efficient. It's not effective. We're not getting what we need as a group. We're not making the contribution we need. Whether it's an executive that says, our organisation is facing imminent bankruptcy, and unless we start collaborating together and doing business differently, we're going out of business. We need to start using this collaboration tool to share ideas, drive innovation. Unless an executive does that, or if an executive does that, then that person has said enough. It could be a manager who says, if you want me to read something, don't email it to me because I ain't going to read it. You want me to read it, stick it in SharePoint. You want me to read it, put it in our collaboration site. Could be a team leader who says, we're wasting all this time at the beginning of meetings just sharing boring updates about what's going on in our group. Let's do it in a different way. Ultimately, someone has to say, enough is enough and let's do it differently. Third, you make new ways of working, new collaboration approaches real by treating it as such. If you're looking for the minutes for the meeting, they're in SharePoint. If you want to help us drive innovation across the organisation, then we have a strategic initiative that's aligned with doing that. Contribute in there. If you want to have your voice heard, then tell us what you're working on. Treat it as real. In your meetings, refer to the things that are happening in the collaboration site. In the collaboration site, refer to the things that are happening in your meetings. Treat it as a real place. And finally, actions reveal beliefs. If you're getting actions that are not collaborative, if you're getting people that are just saying, the spelling is wrong, then that reveals something that's going on inside them. And that gives you the opportunity for coffee, Whittaker's chocolate, and a nice conversation. What's going on for you? How can I help you move from your spelling's all wrong through to something more? How do I help you shift across from there? I have some closing ideas in the closing light of a beautiful Sydney day. Where are you today? Looking at these 3 ways of summarising what you care about and how you share and what that looks like. Where are you today on these things? Do you come at your work from a retain mindset? I'll do the minimum that I have to do. I'll do as much as possible or something in the middle. Where are you today? And what would it look like for you to move from one of those places up to the next level? And what's the benefit to your organisation of doing that? Thank you.